This tutorial starts with a song, but it's only a few seconds long.
Computer animation. Computer animation. Computer animation.
Let's get started with animation. This is not a real tutorial. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the hips because they're often overlooked in beginners character animation. When you do character animation, you usually concentrate on feet and the walk. But when you watch an idle person moving from one leg to the other, he or she moves the hips quite interestingly, and that's what I'm going to show you today. But first of all, let's find a character. You find characters in the General Editor's content browser, and actually we'll be looking for a character pretty soon. But you can download one from, for example, there are lots of sites on the internet where you can get free models. I especially like those people here. They're based in Cologne, but I've never met them really. I just live around the corner, I guess, from them. They have a free section here, and they have lots of other things which you can purchase here. But the free section contains 3D rigged people with nice textures actually for all kinds of formats in Udemy, Maya, etc. So I downloaded I think one or two or three, and I'm going to import them into Maya now, or one of them. When you work with characters, go to Windows first and then to General Settings Preferences, and under the Preferences you need to go to Settings, because here you have the working units. They're by default set to centimeters. Characters are in measurements of meter. Typical character is maybe 1.8 meters high. You save this, it doesn't matter really. It changes the grid, and when you import a character, he or she will land in the scene in this dimension, as opposed to somewhere over here when you have a small grid with a centimeter dimension settings. Okay, I go to Windows now, General Editor and Content Browser, and in the Content Browser I have a section called Rigs, and in the Rigs I have, I think that's actually the ones we've seen on the internet site. So let's choose Jana. I double click her. She comes with a skeleton, and as you can see here, and if you can't see this here, just use one of the tabs here. This is the attribute editor. This is a human IK. She already has a character. I mean, she's characterized. That means this is what we have here. So she stands here. When we press, I think it's the key 5, maybe the key 4. She loads the textures, and so she stands there. In order to work with her a little bit more elegantly, we can pick the arms here, or in the scene, let's move those down just a little bit like this, and the same here. We won't animate the arms, we will animate what everybody does, the feet first, and then I'll talk about the hips. Well, a basic thing here to consider is when you want to make a walk this way, you typically pick a foot. That's the rear foot now. And when you move it, it goes like this. This is not very elegant because you have no freedom to move it forward really. She doesn't step forward. When you move the foot forward, the hips and the rest of the body don't follow. So instead, what you better do is, first of all, you think about the time. And if every step takes a second, you need 50 frames. So set your range here to 50. You would typically lower the hip in order to give the legs a little bit more space to move. And then you set a keyframe at the beginning of the animation. Character animation is about keyframes only. Dynamics don't make sense in most cases, at least. So I'm at the beginning here, and I set a keyframe. I go to the end and then I want her step to be finished like this. Looks a little bit strange, of course, but I set another keyframe here. When you do that properly, you need to know how far she gets by doing 1 or 2 steps. And the crucial thing for when somebody walks is to plant the foot. One foot is planted and the other one moves. So let's plant this foot. We set a keyframe right here for the right foot, and we go to frame 25 and we set the same keyframe here again. That means this leg and this foot is planted on the ground. If we don't do it, it will slide on the ground, and that's not what a walk is about. But now we can go to the beginning again, pick the other foot, that one, and we set a keyframe here because it starts its motion here, and now we go to 25 and then we move it forward. And the key is that this foot is sitting on the ground while we do this. So let's set a keyframe here, and then we need this foot to be planted because it landed on the ground now, and we go to the end of the animation and we set a keyframe for the same foot again, so it doesn't move between here and there. So it's planted, and that's what walking is about. Running is different because in running there are always moments when both feet are off the ground. Something which is a little bit irritating here maybe is that the foot is not up. So when it slides forward, we can actually move it up a little bit like this and set another keyframe. So we have a more natural motion now. It's like a stepping like this. And of course now we need to take care of this foot here and set a keyframe here. Since this is about the hips need to be animated almost immediately after that, because the hip makes interesting motions when the legs move. For example, if you place the hip here and then go to frame 25 and place the hip here again, set a keyframe, and in the middle set the key to this side, it will look totally peculiar because nobody swings to that side when he or she is doing a move with that foot here. So we better let her swing to this side, and we also can rotate the hips like this or like that. Let's try that. Set a keyframe instead of the previous one, and you see this is much better. It's maybe a little bit harsh, but that's how it goes. Now I want to leave this person here. Of course, she's totally stiff up here and she needs to move the shoulders as well, and show you a scene I prepared which is more abstract. I won't say what it is, but you'll see immediately what it is. What you see right away is that the red spheres are the feet. Why is that? Why do you interpret them properly as feet? Because they are planted. They are standing still, while all the other objects here, the green and the blue spheres, move all the time. They never stand still, but the feet are standing still. They move from one place to another, like this. Now it stands still there. That person doesn't jump. So these are the feet. These are, you might have guessed it, not the shoulders or whatever, but the hips. These are the hips. And this is not the head, it's the collarbone. So we don't need the skeleton in order to see that this is a human person, a two-legged, a biped. And now let's have a look at the hips. The green dots are the hips. We'll look at it from the top and check out what the hips do in relation to the feet. This is an interesting motion already. Let's go a little bit further back. You see, we're going forward now. The right foot, in our perspective, moves from the left to the right and steps there. What the hip does while this move is anticipated, right now, the hip moves in the other direction to balance out the motion of that foot. And then it follows, it swings, and once the other foot is placed, because the left foot in this case needs to follow the new position of the right foot, it swings back. And why can it stand on top of this foot? Why doesn't the character fall over? Well, because the balance of the whole character is on this leg now. You can arbitrarily choose any leg, basically, but you need to know that the hips can actually sit on top, above one leg. Now a new motion is anticipated. Like this, you have the same situation as before. The right foot wants to move to the very right now. That's quite a big step. And I go a little bit further back. This is the anticipation. Since the weight of the body, basically the hips, is above the left foot now, we can start the animation. And then the hips follow the other foot and swing back. So it's a swinging motion like a pendulum. Now finally, let's have a look at the collarbone, which is the blue one. What does the collarbone do in respect to the hips? It follows more slowly. It always lags a little bit behind. It doesn't have the power to start a motion, really. That's in the hips. And when the hips invoke a motion, the collarbone follows, a little bit lagging behind. And it's not the feet who initiate the motion, it's the hips which initiate the motion. So what do we learn from this? We learn that character animation is not about walking. It's about balance. And the center point of the balance are the hips.